last hour, President Trump briefed the nation on the missile attacks directed at U.S. military bases in Iraq. During his address, the president announced sanctions against Iran, but he backed off of ordering any military action. Joining me now with his reaction is Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher, who represents Wisconsin 8th District, and he's a Marine veteran. And he served as an intelligence officer in the Middle East and was deployed twice to the Al-Anbar province in Iraq as a commander of an intelligence team. Currently sits on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Congressman, just give us a little bit of your reaction to the speech. What did you make of the president's takeaway specifically to continue to sanction the Iranian economy?
I thought it was a very strong speech by President Trump. He continued to reinforce the basic red line that you cannot kill Americans, and if you do, we will respond very forcefully, as we have. And he also offered the Iranian regime an off-ramp. So I think we are going to go in the direction of increasing maximum economic pressure on the Iranian regime. I have a bill with Liz Cheney, for example, that would eliminate the existing waivers on Iranian sanctions. I think that's a good idea. It's a non-kinetic way to respond to this recent Iranian provocation while still offering them a way to save face. So I actually think when the dust settles, if what we're left with is Trump has taken Qasem Soleimani off the battlefield and the Iranians have done very little in response, that's a massive win for the administration. Sure.
So, Congressman, I mean, when we're talking about this maximum economic pressure campaign, do you worry, though, that given the current state of the economy, that by continuing, you might be boxing the Iranians into a corner that could escalate towards military action? That's what the criticism I've seen is, that's why we are where we are currently.
No, I disagree with that. I think the flaw in our approach prior was that we never coupled maximum economic pressure with a credible military deterrent. Certainly under the Obama administration, nobody in the region and certainly nobody in Tehran believed that Obama was willing to take military action. Now we can combine those two things into a very forceful approach. And ultimately our goal should be to drive a wedge between the Iranian regime and its own people. There's nothing the Iranian regime fears more, not even more than Donald Trump and the arsenal of U.S. military power, than its own people. Qasem Soleimani's death squads recently gunned down about 1,200 Iranian citizens out of fear of their own people. That was a Tiananmen Square moment. They shut down the internet for 10 days and cost themselves hundreds of millions of dollars that they don't have because they fear their own people. That is what they fear more than anything else.
Sure. So, Congressman, what is do you think the strategy the president announced was also to get NATO more involved? What did you make of that? What do you think the president means by getting NATO more involved in the Middle East? Is he saying the U.S. is going to withdraw and he expects NATO to take more of that commitment because ultimately it's the world's oil that we're protecting in the region?
I don't think we are going to withdraw our troop presence in Iraq. I would not recommend we do that, and I hope that we take advantage of this to enhance our relationship with our partners on the ground in Iraq. And we should recognize that we have a ton of people on the ground in Iraq who have been risking their lives to protest Iran's involvement in that country. So I think what the president means, and this is just my interpretation, is that this is an opportunity for some of our European allies, our P5+1 partners, to recognize that the Iran deal, the JCPOA, was flawed, and to join us in imposing maximum economic pressure. And if they want to renegotiate a deal, at the bare minimum, based on what we saw last night in terms of the rockets that were fired against our bases, or Iraqi bases where we had our military personnel in Iraq, we should include things like Iran's development in ballistic missiles next time we try and negotiate a deal.
So, Congressman, as a U.S. military veteran, you served in Iraq. I'm sure you've probably even been to some of those bases. What did you just make of the attack, and do you fear some sort of escalation there as somebody who served in the region yourself?
Well, I spent 7 months on Al-Assad, the base that was bombed last night, and so I thank God that no one was harmed. And I was reminded last night, as I was over the holidays, while all of us were able to go home and celebrate Christmas, how lucky we are to have such dedicated, not only military professionals, but also diplomatic professionals that are doing dangerous work on our behalf. I think, and I haven't confirmed this yet, if it's true that the Iranians, one, warned the Iraqis that this was coming, and two, deliberately targeted sites where they knew they wouldn't incur U.S. casualties, I think it is a strong message that the red line has been received in Iran. They're not interested in killing more Americans. It's too early to tell that, but hopefully that's what happened.
Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us, sir. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.